Chapter 26, It Could Have Been Worse. Page 202. I soon learned, despite having my headlamps on high, the roads in Java were notoriously dark. This was because they were barren of street lamps in all but the most populated towns. This made it a regular pain in the butt to constantly switch from high to low beam because of the passing motorist. Another stress factor was my inadequate road wear. Neither of us packed a sweater or jacket for this extended trip, and I was already chilly riding at night with the added wind chill factor of 50-mile-an-hour speeds hitting along the straightaways. But the greatest source of irritation was the strange patches of bugs that seemed to form near bridges or wet bogs adjacent to open fields. Without a windscreen, I had remembered to keep my mouth tightly closed or risk having a mouthful of flying bugs. Other than those minor problems to deal with, we had a major event in the way of our tire going flat about halfway home in the middle of nowhere. If you didn't read the Sticky Situations Part 2 chapter, dear reader, it contains far more detail of this harrowing tale. I first detected something awry when it felt like I ran over a branch or such. Just a weird wobble effect. A few moments later I felt this again and made mention of it to Welland, who could barely hear let alone comprehend what I said. Then all hell broke loose. The bike shimmied and sashayed like a retarded snake crossing a bed of hot coals. In short order, my bike was all over the place. This time my instincts kicked in. Seems that years of my motorcycling experience paid off in spades. Horrific thoughts of us being ejected or tumbling across the pavement streamed through my brain. By God, not on my watch, I told myself. I gave up using the foot peg to wrest control of the rear of the bike and did something either crazy stupid or ingeniously brilliant. I clamped hold of the front lever, braced my arms with all the strength I had, leaned back, and locked up the front brakes. One of three things could happen at this point. 1. Scenario 1. We do a forward somersault, crash headlong on the pavement, and with the accompanying bike slamming down on top of us. Not a pretty ending. 2. Scenario 2. The bike doesn't pull up straight, yanks us to the side, and we both get trapped under the side of the bike. Ouch. 3. Scenario 3. We buck somewhat and skid to a stop unscathed. Bless our Lord above, this last scenario is how things ended up for us. By controlling the front axle and not fiddling with the rear one, I immediately had decelerated us just under 20 miles per hour before it really got ridiculously impossible trying to keep things upright. By now, I think the rear tire was dead flat and slamming side to side inside the frame, which I can only describe as the time I rode one of those mechanical bulls in a honky-tonk bar 20 years ago. Instinctively, my muscular legs went outstretched like outriggers on a backhoe. This effectively kept our bike from flopping over on its side. We were mildly relieved, but holy hell, I'm not sure who was more shook up between the two of us. I didn't exactly wait around to test my concerns. You okay? I asked of my lovely bride-to-be. I think so. Then my speeding brain thought of another problem. Good. Now get the hell off before someone plows into us, baby, I commanded. Well, and someone in shock wasn't responding quickly enough. Move, move, I commanded, reaching around my back to grab her by the shoulder. This is the second easiest way of getting hurt in an accident. Any motorist, and especially a motorcyclist, should immediately consider someone following not far behind, not paying attention to events conspiring around them, who are more than likely to clobber you from behind. I leapt off the right side of the bike and in a series of loud grunts and using some serious brute physical force, dragged the bike somehow off to the left side shoulder. Honest to God, I don't know where I get these almost superhuman reflexes, but I learned over the years to never question them. Something in my brain told me, get off the road, Brian, and to prove me right, not a few seconds later, a motorcycle zoomed on by. That would have sucked big time had we survived the crash, only to be slammed into by another vehicle because we stupidly were still parked in the middle of the road. Now began the arduous task of pushing his stubborn bike for a very long distance, no doubt on a very dark section of road. I had no idea where we were, as I had traveled this road once before and only in the daylight. Welland thought it best to double back towards Sampang as she was pretty sure we passed through a section of shops. I trusted her judgment better than mine, so I made the world's most difficult U-turn imaginable, with the confounded and quite miserable bike fighting me every step of the way. Regrettably, I now had us headed once again for Sampang. Lord Almighty, will this night ever end? I told myself. Our hopes now lie in one of those places having a repair shop open late at night on a weeknight. I struggled with each and every step I took. Bikes were tough enough to push along with 2 inflated tires, but at a dead flat, especially on the rear tire, and it was a whole new ball game. It was so tiresome to my arms, I constantly switched off on which side of the bike I walked. At one point, I considered dumping off the 40 extra pounds of dead weight in the form of those confounded coconuts Grandma gave us. Only I had no landmark to spot these with, and if I could readily see them, so could some passerby. Surely they would be lost forever in the inky darkness, so I guess I was stuck with them dangling from the handlebar hook until I reached my destination. I was so thankful there was a decent shoulder off to my side. Otherwise, it might have been scary dodging vehicles coming straight at me. Not wishing to still cause an accident, I smartly put the hazards on lest someone sideswipe us from the rear. I also instructed Wellen to walk ahead of me. This served 2 purposes. 1, she was less at risk of getting struck by someone. 2, Wellen could act as scout in case there were obstacles or chuck holes I need be concerned with. 3, motorcycles tend to slow down when suddenly encountering a pedestrian. All in all, I think I walked a full hour, enlisting Wellen's help in pushing against the luggage rack at the rear. Yes, muscle man me was no match against Mother Nature. I was doing fine until I encountered a few hills. Then these hills rapidly began destroying my lower back, which on a good day never functions very well. Finally, we found some lights up ahead. This was a promising sign for sure. Where there are lights, there are people. I was really starting to feel the stress of my ordeal practically in every part of my body, from my neck and arms down to my lower back and legs. I never appreciated being in such top shape as I did this evening. I suppose running my own firewood business has its rewards. I truly feel the average guy at the ripe old age of 50 would never have been able to accomplish such a feat of endurance. I suppose I did this through love of my wife-to-be and my sacred vow to protect her always.